Hi guys, welcome back to Chess Matthew. So on this video, we'll tackle about a simple line against the Czech Defense. Let's start with the moves of e4, d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3, and c6. So here, after this position, we shall reach now the Czech Defense on the Pirc Defense. So going back, for example, after e4, d6, the idea here of Pirc Defense is to stop this e4 pawn to have any further push to the e5 square with that d6 move. And for example, after d4, in which it actually opened up some lines for the bishops, the black here tries to delay the aggressiveness of the white by playing knight to f6 that actually attacks the undefended pawn of white. And after knight c3, trying to defend his undefended pawn and also developing a piece while controlling the center. But the black here can play c6 that again to stop this bishop to have some hop on the square by a b5 and d5, and again stopping this pawn to have some any further push. And again, this pawn is also controlling the center. So after c6, we have a simple line here for the white against this defense via playing f4, trying to boost now a control on the e5 square, and also preparing to have a kingside attack. For example, after knight f3, bishop to d3, kingside castling, and again trying to open up some lines. For example, allowing this pawn to be hacked on the f file to have a successful attack on the king side of the black. So after knight c3 here and knight c6, although the usual move here for the Pirc defense is to play the move g6, trying to develop his bishop on this diagonal, and again play c5 to have nasty control on this diagonal. But for example, if the black here plays c6, trying to have some open lines for his queen, but we have a simple counter here by playing f4, because a normal move here for the white after here on this position with c6, if we play knight f3 here, then the black here can easily go back to a normal Pirc after g6, because after the move bishop to d3, bishop d7, kingside castling, again the black here can stir up the opening by playing queen c7, trying to delay on kingside castling, because after h3 there is a simple knight b to d7, and again after a4 for white, the black here can go for a pelador type after e5, in which it is actually safe for the black on this position. And another thing, for example, after playing a normal knight f3, with this c6 move, the black here can actually go for his traditional move with queen to a5, because after a queen to a5, it actually threatens now to capture this pawn because this knight was actually pinned. So after bishop to d3, defending his e4 pawn, but the black here can have an aggressive move with e5, because after d5, c takes d5, e takes d5, again the black here can now stir up the opening by playing knight b to d7, because on this position after a6 we shall reach now a nudge door type on a Sicilian structure with this position. So after e4, d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3, c6, the Czech defense or the Czech variation of the Pirc defense, we should play here as white to play f4, and we will play an aggressive move to have some control on the e5 to stop now the black here to stir up the opening and avoid any transposition, which is, for example, the black here can transpose now the opening to pelador defense or even to the Sicilian nudge door type of the opening. So after f4 we stop that idea, and for example, if the black here goes for a traditional Czech defense, which is to play the move queen to a5, trying to win the pawn by pinning down this knight and also controlling this fifth rank. And another thing, after a5, it actually puts some defense to the e5 square, in which later on, again, the black here can play e5 because it was actually equally defended against these attackers. But after queen to d5, we shall play here bishop d2 first to avoid any hanging pawn on the e4, because after bishop to d2, it actually breaks now the pin, and this pawn cannot actually be captured because the pin has actually been gone after bishop to d2. And again, for example, on this position, after queen to e5, if the white here actually just play e5, but there is a simple knight to e4, again trying to pressure this knight with two attackers with only one defender. And after queen to f3, but there is simple knight takes, and after bishop to d2, and again the black here solved now his problem because he can easily now develop his bishop to f5, and after bishop takes c3, queen to d5, and again on this position the black can easily equalize the game. And again on this position, after queen to e5, we shall play now the bishop to d2 to stop the pin. And again, if the black here tries to solve his problem with his bishop on c8, for example after bishop to g4, but we have a simple knight to f3, and after e5 we have a simple capture after d takes e5, d takes e5, f takes e5, attacking the knight, and after knight fd7, h3. And again, this bishop was actually forced now to have some concession because he was actually a pawn down. So after bishop takes f3 and g takes f3, the white here has a slight advantage with double bishop, and again with the pawns on the center. So after bishop to d2, the black here may play e5 because this pawn was actually defended twice with only two attackers, and trying to freeze bishop so that he can castle later on. But here we have a simple move, which is to play knight f3, and again going for the idea of white by playing f4 to have a kingside castling, and again trying to open the f-file to start now an attack on the king side against the black. So on this position, after knight f3, the white here has a slight advantage because of the control on the center, and again with these pieces that actually been developed on the board. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to subscribe.